at 10, pizza time. Pizza. Honestly, it's one of my favorite foods. I could eat pizza for lunch and dinner and be fine with it for the rest of my life. I actually honestly did that for my first year at college. God, I missed that meal plan. However, I totally missed the love that Mike seems to have for pizza in the security logbook. In fact, other than his name, it's the first thing he writes about. On page 6 of the logbook, it asks you to list 10 reasons why applying to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza seemed like a good idea at the time. Which, first of all, Scott, are you trying to get people to come for my job? Second, the number one answer, and the only one Mike gives, is employees get free pizza, which is understandable and could be considered a one-off. However, way later on in the book, on page 87 to be exact, interesting number by the way, when asking which animatronic would win in a fight and why, Mike writes for the glory of pizza next to a swashbuckling Captain Bonnie. And if one mention of chewing gum is enough to connect him to the older brother, damn, this guy really likes pizza. And at 9, book 10. Fazbear Frights Book 10 releases on September 7th, 2021, which is also my birthday and the day Spider-Man PS4 came out in 2018. Fun story, I actually didn't know about that game until I went to Fan Expo 2018 and met the Jovenshire who asked me about it since I was wearing a Spider-Man costume, so that was a nice way to find out. But I guess that day is just a good time to release things out into the world, to bless the world, so to speak. However, the book description, at least of one of the stories, really caught my eye. The 10th book, titled Friendly Face, is written by Scott Cawthon and Andrea Wagner and has the description of, quote, Andrew can't spend his money fast enough on a happy companion guaranteed to keep his friend's memory alive. Which sounds awfully familiar to me, since it's my theory about what happened to Crying Child, how William programmed a robot to be an older version of Crying Child, except named him Michael and gave him memories of killing his younger brother in an effort to keep him away from the Fazbear restaurants. But also, the name Andrew rings a bell, since it's the name of the spirit who possesses William and the man in room 1280, who had been keeping him alive from the inside. And I won't be surprised if Andrew's friend absolutely loves pizza. And it ain't helpful. The security logbook seems to make a lot of headlines in these lists, but that's because it's packed full of so many ideas and theories if you know where to look. For example, looking outside the book to the concepts and universe that involve the book. The survival logbook is meant to be the security logbook, however, Mike crossed out the word security and writes in survival. But this is a form of bringing us into the FNAF canon, by making us a night guard and this book being our training guide. But that begs the question, why this book? Why a book that has clearly been written in, especially on important things like incident logs, and why one that just straight up trashes the company, saying that this is basically a death wish and that we should have never taken this job unless it was for the pizza. It could be the last one, but even if it was, I'm sure they would print a new one with all the graffiti that's covering this book. And I mean, like, it's even covered in blood, for God's sakes. I mean, he crossed out security and also wrote survival. It must be because the other guard, or whoever hired you, knows about the danger and wants you to survive. Hell, this could all just be a ruse and there was no Mike to begin with, and they just wrote the book to make it more relatable to you.
And at 7, Charlie. The original FNAF novel trilogy had a big plot twist at the end. In the FNAF novel The Fourth Closet, it's revealed that the main protagonist, Charlie, was actually the third in a series of 4 robots that were a recreation of Henry's daughter, who was killed at an early point in her life. However, the final version was incomplete and could also switch between looking like a real human, so much so that another character wanted to make Whoopi with them, to looking like Baby, you know, like the actual Baby animatronic, thanks to pins located around Baby's body like we see in the games. I've used this as evidence for another theory before, but we've never stopped to really ask how she's able to look so realistic. And it's a big point, because this is the same argument people use to try and debunk my theory. How does the skin work? In the novels, it's revealed that she actually has fake blood, which makes sense since, you know, if you get cut and you don't bleed, someone's gonna get suspicious. I hope. Which means the skin should be able to bruise. But where did this technology come from? It's so realistic, someone wants to see all of it, yet it's still fake. How is this possible? But more so, it also helps in my theory proving that my scenario is entirely plausible. I'm not moving from my stance that Mike Lafton, or the Big Brother, in the games is a robot version of Crying Child created after Crying Child dies. In whatever happened, because obviously what we see isn't actually what happened. Because, like, there's no way Fredbear chopped it.
And at 6, Bite of 87. The survival logbook makes yet another appearance on this list, this time either solidifying or making the Bite of 87 even more confusing. The Bite of 87 being the mysterious incident where someone, presumably Jeremy from FNAF 2, gets his frontal lobe bitten off by an animatronic. We thought we had the animatronic who did it pinned as Mangle, but then Ultimate Custom Night came along and proposed that maybe it was Toy Chica, with the line, "Where's my beak?" lodged in your forehead, of course. However, I think the logbook can actually give us more of an answer as to who done it. On page 35, the book asks you some would you rather questions about what you would do if you were trapped under a desk for a week surrounded by baby-themed animatronics. The last question it asks you is, would you rather lose a frontal lobe or an arm? Now, every other question makes sense for that situation aside from this one, so why would it ask this? To remind us of the Bite of 87, like we could forget, since on page 87 we see a couple animatronic cage matches with you determining the winner and why. On page 86 this occurs as well. Both animatronics up for debate are in this section, however Mangle is the only one that appears on page 87 and is clearly set up to win, being pitted against Balloon Boy. Chica is also present but on page 86 and against Freddy, a much more fair matchup. Is this Scott correcting us from what we thought we learned in Ultimate Custom Night, or is this just another coincidence or diversion? Tell me what you think and why in the comments. Get it? Because it's like that section. Halfway through into number 5, Lost in Time. This is a bit of a wild idea, but with Afton being in a game, that game being FNAF VR, and now a virus, could he be immortal and timeless? And for those who are confused, let me try to explain. The internet has been around for ages now. Nobody born within the past 30 years has really grown up without the internet having at least some part in their lives. And viruses have also been around for ages. They've gotten a lot more complex and creative, but they've been around for a while. Could William be using this to access any point in time where the internet was still available? Like Savitar from The Flash Season 3, who tried to shatter his existence throughout time. Could William have successfully done the same thing? Could he have actually used this virus on all other animatronics in the games, and that's why they attack us? I mean, this isn't really that far-fetched for a universe with possessed robots in agony and a time-traveling ball pit, so I'd buy it. And for clarification, I will put you back together, a line that has caused a lot of turmoil, especially on this channel, since whenever I mention it, I'm typically referring to a theory that many people seem to disregard and even despise. However, this time I'm not talking about potential robots, I'm talking Ultimate Custom Night, since one of Nightmare Freddy's lines is, "I am remade, but not by you, by the one you should not have killed." And that line speaks volumes. I'll talk more about why later in this list, but this helps us confirm one thing that we've suspected since FNAF 4, that William Afton is speaking through Psychic Friend Fredbear. The Fredbear plush we see follow us around during the 8-bit minigames of FNAF 4, that we later learn is being used as the camera by Afton. This proves it as being William because of the clarification, but not by you. Like, why would he say that unless William was an option? Unless he had made some sort of promise like that before, and the only other time we hear the line is in FNAF 4. This is referencing the "I will put you back together" line, not the "I put her back together" that Michael says in Sister Location, because that's just a totally different thing.
And 3, Special Delivery. The animatronics from Special Delivery were supposed to be friendly, basically being a nice way for the company to rebuild their image. But then, they send out angry animatronics that try and kill you. Why did they think that was a good idea? And I get that they were hacked by the Afton virus, but there is plenty of sus things going on in this game. Like, why, if the company was trying to rebuild its reputation with these friendly animatronics, have they not shut down the project after I'm sure they've gotten emails and stuff about the animatronics going rogue? And why the absolute hell did they include versions of Springtrap, a character that we know thanks to the man in room 1280, everyone knows is guilty. They have multiple versions of him as well, the normal one, the toxic one, and the curse, which is a recent addition as far as I know. They literally named him the Curse. It's what? Just remove him from the program. Why would I want to order a literal killer? Is this the same thing as when like girls say that serial killers are hot? Because that's also messed up. Like, how am I supposed to compete with that? Actually, there is a solution. I'll be back.
And in 2, Nightmare's Brain. This is a forgotten and maybe even unnoticed detail by some from FNAF 4 that was recently pointed out to me. Nightmare from FNAF 4's final level actually has a brain. You can kind of see it, like you can see the silhouette of it behind like his like semi-transparent head. Whether this was meant to represent Crying Child being rebuilt as a robot, with his brain obviously still being alive since we're experiencing these nightmares in the game, or if it was just meant to hint at how some of these animatronics were created, the idea of brains in animatronics hasn't gone away. In fact, it's been highlighted. Take the FNAF VR Curse of Dreadbear DLC. In that DLC, we get a minigame where we must program our own Dreadbear according to preset directives. These are all calibrated into a brain that we must color, size, and configure before putting into Dreadbear's head. If we get it wrong or take too long to do so, we get attacked and killed, which could mean that some of these animatronics are killing or have killed simply because they were programmed wrong, instead of being programmed like that intentionally. It could be where William got the idea to use animatronics in the first place, or the brain could just be signifying Crying Child's brain death at the end of the game, since if he catches you, the game is over. And the brain in his head is only a further way to symbolize that. Finally, in at number 1, the one you should not have killed. Here we are, the big numero uno, the one I said I'd be speaking about later on. The one you should not have killed is the main, antagonist of Ultimate Custom Night. This character, who most believe to be Cassidy, is the one causing this whole situation, trapping William in his own mind while keeping him alive in order to torture him for his crimes. And while this may still be Cassidy, I think it's Crying Child. I have a whole theory with my evidence as to why, so check that out in the top right corner if you're interested. But no matter who it is, the one you should not have killed cannot be Golden Freddy. While the evidence certainly seems to point us in that direction, now that we know William wasn't in hell or in purgatory in this game, but rather trapped in his own body thanks to the man in room 1280 from Bunny Call, we know that it just can't be possible. There is evidence in the form of Stitch Wraith that multiple souls can possess one thing, however we have not seen evidence of characters being able to possess multiple big things at once. I know that there is a character that possessed a lot of little things to my knowledge, but nobody has possessed 2 animatronics at the same time. In fact, in Bunny Call, William had to die for Andrew to move on to the Stitch Wraith. So based on the evidence we've seen so far, the one possessing William and keeping him alive, the one you should not have killed, whether it be Cassidy or Crying Child, cannot also be in the Golden Freddy suit. Plus, the Golden Freddy suit would not have been around at the hospital when Crying Child died, and if William had to go to the Fredbear warehouse to possess a hard drive, Crying Child would have to be around the suit to possess it. That's just how they've set up the rules. So yeah. In a 10 human counterpart? This point is brought to you by YouTube users Ruby Pupstar and Henry, who commented on the last Tiny Details video. The Circus Baby animatronic is a complex robot with the spirit of Elizabeth inside and sinister goals and intentions, but she's different to her Fazbear Frike's book counterpart, but also similar in a lot of ways. One of those reasons being the pin-like mechanisms that cover her body. In the books, she uses these pins to switch between her animatronic form and a realistic human form. These pins are also visible on the game version of the character as well, and since they're never really used for anything in game, we can safely assume that they're intended for a different purpose. Well, like the same purpose as the book, but a different purpose. You get it. But why does this matter? Well, this brings up the question, who is her human counterpart? Have we been seeing her? Do we know what she looks like in human form, if she has one yet? Or is it just a design detail that shows us that she can change between looking like her and us, since she, as a part of Ennard, takes over our bodies at the end of Sister Location? Does she have to do this before she unlocks this power, or is it always there? Will we see her in Security Breach? If I know. Anything can happen at this point. And at 9, Bad Press Bonnie. This was pointed out by multiple users in the comments from the last part, but the first one I saw was from user SockGems once again. These users suggested that perhaps the reason we don't see Bonnie in Security Breach is because it would be bad for business, considering how multiple kids were killed by a man wearing a golden Bonnie springlock suit. It's also interesting how blood never triggered the mechanisms in the suit, but that's aside the point. Anyway, with all this attention on the Bonnie animatronic, it's understandable why they would want to keep it quiet, and only give the character a bowling alley. But if this was the reason why they scrapped the character, why are they still sending Springtrap animatronics in special delivery? Why are they putting out multiple skins for Springtrap? If they know that the killer used a Spring Bonnie or at least a Golden Bonnie suit, why would they risk more bad press, especially when they know these animatronics are malfunctioning? We know these games take place around the same time since the Afton virus is the thing corrupting the special delivery animatronics, but why would they continue to do that? That's so stupid. Like, I get it. These people are definitely missing a few brain cells, but can't be missing all of them. Come on. And before we move on to number 8, if you're enjoying this series and love that we've been able to cover over 100 FNAF tiny details, be sure you're hitting that like button. It really helps us out and lets more people find the video and the channel. And check in the top right corner for the first part of the series and as well as a new playlist for it. Yeah, this series now deserves a playlist. Jesus. And it aids special features. The puppet is a character I'm sure all of us love, and while a load of fans like to turn this character into something sinister and terrifying, see the top 10 FNAF fan alternate versions of the puppet for more on that, why is it so special? According to Ultimate Custom Night Deathlines, Chica was the first of the victims, meaning that she would have to be the special one, right? At least the first of the missing children. But why is it that the puppet is the one that's able to give gifts and give life in the FNAF 2 minigame? It awakens the animatronics, so what's the deal? Is it more emotion magic, since agony is the emotion that causes possession? Is it perhaps love that can bring those things to life? We know that Henry loved his daughter, trying so hard to set her free in FNAF 3 and 6, but he also tried to keep her safe above anyone else, as we see in the security puppet minigame, giving Charlotte a special green bracelet that the puppet used to track her. That's the only explanation I can think of that makes sense. Maybe the puppet can feel the overwhelming love from her family and that's how she's able to do it. I don't know. And at 7, Springtrap's Revenge. Yet another questionable business decision from Fazbear Entertainment. Springtrap's Revenge is a VR game that is the subject of the Fazbear Fright story in the flesh from Bunny Call, the 5th book in the series. The story revolves around a game game developer named Matt, who creates a Springtrap AI using all of his anger from a divorce and multiple failed relationships. However, the game is too difficult, so instead Matt reprograms the game to torture Springtrap. For some reason, because he kept killing him. It's a game, dude, just make it easier. My question is, why would they make a whole VR game around surviving Springtrap when he was a real-life serial killer in their reality? Like, sure, in our world, we wouldn't care because he isn't real, but it's not like Valve or Stress Level Zero is going around making Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy survival games, because it would be in poor taste, and it would be way too real and disrespectful to the victims of those killers, or I guess anyone related to the victims of those killers. So why would Fazbear Entertainment willingly make a video game revolving around the killer that ruined their reputation in the first place? It seems like a horrible idea. Like in a world where everyone's getting cancelled. Why? And at 6, Scrabble. The Shadow animatronics are some of the most mysterious characters in the game, but we've already talked about them in the last part. Why they were made and why is only Bonnie aggressive, those questions have already been asked. But a new question presented by G5 Studio on the last marathon for this series asked why the hell Shadow Freddy is the only Shadow animatronic with a normal name, while Bonnie and Dee Dee have a mix of letters, RWQFSFASXC for Bonnie and XOR for Shadow Dee Dee. But why are their names just letters? My first and only guess is that there's some form of cipher and that we just need to decode them, but I've had no luck with Visionaire ciphers and anagrams, especially with cipher anagrams, taking what I got from the cipher and trying to unscramble it. And it could also be that Scott just didn't name the animatronics and instead smashed his head on the keyboard from frustration and then just kept it. But Scott doesn't really do things like that, that's more of a me thing. And FNAF 2, where RWQFSFASXC was introduced, started to expand on the lore of the world, so it could be possible that there's something more there.
That would do it at number 5, Premonition. Now, I'm not talking about real psychic powers here, but what if the ending of Security Breach was pointed out to us way before even Sister Location was released? That's right, I'm talking about FNAF 4, baby! The stomach mouths of the animatronics is always assumed to be because Crying Child saw Elizabeth get scooped. But what if it was really foreshadowing the events of games to come? We know that Gregory will hide inside Glamrock Freddy. Perhaps while we're in there in first person, we will watch ourselves get crushed, helpless. That would be fun. However, I want Chica to be the one to step on me, I mean crush me. Yeah. crush me.
And at 4, mediocre melodies. This isn't entirely new news, but we've learned the origins of the mediocre melodies crew. What seemed like random additions in FNAF 6 were actually set up 3 games earlier. FNAF 3's Night 4 phone calls has Phone Guy talking about multiple simultaneous spring lock failures occurring at the sister location. This isn't the place we visit in that game, but rather another Fazbear joint. He says the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees, and that the classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location while being looked at by our technicians. Until replacements arrive, you'll be expected to wear the temporary costumes provided to you. Keep in mind that they were found on very short notice, so questions of appropriateness/relevance should be deflected. And while it could have been just about some crappy knockoff Frank Fazbear costumes from AliExpress, the line about questions about relevance should be deflected seems to point that they aren't the normal Fazbear crew. And the only other group we really see are the mediocre melodies, hence why they're mediocre. They're not the original. And at 3, intentional glitch. Glitch Trap is an odd character, an accidental addition to FNAF VR that somehow ends up interacting with the environment and altering aspects of the game. Well, does he? I've always questioned why Glitch Trap is able to move the curtain at the end of the game and seemingly even put us in the Freddy suit. Like, sure, he's a spirit technically, but he's also game code and would have to obey the laws of such, right? Like, any being must obey the laws of the form they inhabit or whatever they say in it Chapter 2. So how is he able to move things like the curtain when I can't? Simple. He wasn't an accident. If he was a glitch, unintentional, how would the ending make sense? Who would put us in the Freddy suit? We wouldn't crawl in there ourselves after all. I mean, like, we know what would happen. Was there another character there? Did Glitch Trap replace them? No, we didn't. He was meant to be there, since you can see this ending without collecting all 16 tapes, so he wouldn't be reassembled yet. Glitch Trap was an intentional feature of this game, which makes me think, who else is working for him, since Vanny wouldn't be possessed or under his control at this point, because we know that she gets possessed because of this game. Or at least, we're pretty sure. We also are pretty sure she's Tape Girl. And at 2, Crash the Desktop. I told you it would be in the next Tiny Details list. Golden Freddy is the most mysterious animatronic from FNAF 1, being able to move through closed doors while staying limp with no endoskeleton, and can even cause hallucinations like it's me and Isla's Bonnie, along with changing posters on the wall. I figured they can do this because of other emotions, but why do they crash us to the desktop when they jump scare us? It's a weird moment, especially the first time, but it's certainly going to crash you whenever you get killed by this freaky fiend. But this has bigger implications than we first thought, since now the series is about video games interacting with the real world, and even FNAF World had those elements, having to set up the clues to unlock the good ending in FNAF 3. But this is the first instance of FNAF interacting with reality, and it's our reality, not the in-game reality that we would assume. This also happens with Nightmare in FNAF 4. Is this symbolic of death? Like, if you die in the FNAF universe, do you get reborn in ours? And if that's the case, are we going to have to deal with a real William Afton sometime soon? Keep an eye on the news, and don't go to Chuck E. Cheese. Finally, in at number 1, preference. Sister Location was the first FNAF game to introduce entirely new animatronics with their own look, and the story is fantastic. But at the end of the game, we get a whole load of robotic parts shoved inside us without our consent, and then we start bruising from the inside until we vomit out the innards and go about our business. Like, nothing happened for some reason. They needed a skin suit to blend into the real world and escape the facility, but why us? Sure, we may look like the only person in the place, but just before we get scooped, we see 2 technicians hanging on either side of our office. Why not just take one of them instead? Perhaps because they didn't trust Baby, or they knew how to fight back since, you know, they're technicians, or maybe because they know Mike is also a robot, hence why Baby says he won't die after ejecting themselves from his body. He didn't have organic parts. His insides were an endoskeleton. That's right, I'm back on the train. It's happening. It's gonna be a thing.
And it's an animatronic bite. We all know the story of FNAF 4's 8-bit minigames and cutscenes, where Crying Child ends up getting chomped in the mouth of the Fredbear animatronic thanks to his older brother and his friends putting him in there. I proposed a different idea that not many people seem to appreciate, but thanks to the comment of one Thanos Snap on a previous part, it helped me realize, how did Fredbear manage to crush Crying Child's skull enough to put him in a coma? We originally believed that it was due to a spring lock failure since we saw someone wearing the suit in a previous part, but what we forgot about is that while on stage, Fredbear isn't in suit mode, it's an animatronic, so the spring locks were already all in place, and there wouldn't be any way that it should be able to crush his skull, and the chomping force of the mouth is going to have to be way over regulation to be able to cause the amount of damage we see, and if the suit was capable of that, nobody would wear it. There is no feasible explanation that allows what we see on screen to be the actual scenario where crying child dies, so how did this actually happen? And does this go to only further enhance my explanation of this scene? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and maybe we can work this out together. And the 9 Paper Pals. The Paper Pals are a group of paper plate versions of our favorite animatronics. Well, a couple of them. In FNAF 2, we can see paper plate versions of Bonnie, Freddy, and a human-looking one that might possibly be Balloon Boy. And while these may be crafts made by kids at the restaurant, or they might sell kits for you to be able to make these at home, where did the originals come from and how can they move? In FNAF 2, the human-like Paper Pal can actually move from Cam 4, where it's originally found, into the office. And in FNAF 3, the 3 Paper Pals can do the same thing, using this teleporting mechanic seemingly at random. How can they do this? How can paper cutouts teleport between rooms? Is it a hallucination or something else? I don't know, and it terrifies me. Imagine all the paper cuts this thing would give if it jump scared you. Ow. Tail trap. This was mentioned in the comments of one of the Funtime Foxy Facts lists by a user that I could not find the comment of twice, so I apologize. I really need to take note of this stuff. Anyway, the comment suggested that Funtime Foxy's tail could be where its containment chamber for the kids is collected. You know, like the containment chamber for the kids would be in its tail, which is an interesting idea, and it would give a reason as to why Foxy all of a sudden got a tail in Sister Location, but the beginning of the tail is so small that it would have to really squish the kid down to the size of like a Toblerone bar before actually getting to the wider part, so it's unlikely, but still something to think about.
And it's 7 Dynamic Duo. There are so many FNAF ships it makes me sick to my stomach. And while that also may be the fact that I've only eaten a Kit Kat today, I didn't think that FNAF ships would go this far. There are 2 animatronics notably missing from the Security Breach roster, Bonnie as previously mentioned, and Foxy, instead being replaced by Roxanne Wolf and Montgomery Gator. But thanks to Instagram user that Colby Flats who DM'd me and a YouTube user in the last part, they pointed out that Roxanne is actually a combination of Foxy and Bonnie, almost as if they had a child together. I know it would be impossible, considering how they're both robots and can't have a biological child, but the design of the character matches them both closely. Wolves aren't that different from foxes, being basically cousins, foxes diverting from the wolf lineage around 12 million years ago, and Roxy plays the guitar, and the guitar was reserved exclusively for Bonnie up until this point, excluding the mediocre melodies. It's weird and I can't believe that Foxy and Bonnie have a daughter, at least technically speaking, but I shouldn't be surprised at this point.
And its 6th fourth child. A lot of people seem to fixate on Clara from Sister Location's Immortal and the Rest list for a proxy for Mrs. Afton, the mother of the Afton kids, since she talks to a vampire meant to represent William, whose name is Vlad. However, the theme of the show is Vlad constantly denying that the baby is his. Clara, the baby isn't mine, even though the baby can turn into a bat and sleeps hanging upside down. But what if there is more to that than just being a proxy for William's wife? Because I doubt Clara would be the name of the character and the name of the mother if William's character is named Vlad. What if this is secretly revealing that William has a 4th child? One that hasn't met a terrible fate yet. One that perhaps William didn't believe was his when his wife told him. So much so that he divorced her on the grounds that she cheated and he got the kids. A simple paternity test would reveal that he is the father, but he could claim that they were faked, like how Vlad denies the child being his, even though it's literally a vampire. And William is well connected, so bringing a trial would be easy cheese. He has to be well connected to not have been actually thrown in prison. There has to be something going on. Now, who could this secret child be? This may be a stretch, but what about Gregory? Unless we go off my theory that in FNAF 1 and 2 we play as Henry, we've only played as characters of the Afton family until FNAF VR potentially. So what if the 4th child is the one we play as in Security Breach, and that's why Vanny is trying to capture him? Or more realistically, what if Vanessa is the child, and that's how William was able to take control of their mind? They're related. Only time will tell.
Halfway through in at number 5, why Baby? One question I've had and seen a couple times is the question of why Baby was kicked out. We know that she has an argument and that's mostly why, but how did they know what parts were Baby's and why did they even include her in the first place? Well, they assumingly needed her abilities, but they could separate themselves because of Remnant. Something I rediscovered while researching my last video, the top 10 souls trapped in FNAF animatronics, is that in the FNAF novels it's revealed that the Funtime animatronics all contain the souls of of the original 5 missing children. And that's probably where the idea to group together as Ennard came from, the desire for all parts of their souls to be together, or as close as they can be. And that's also probably a factor in why they kicked Baby out, since she contains the soul of Elizabeth Afton, the daughter of the man who took all their lives. And also because, you know, she doesn't have the soul of any of the missing children, so she was just an extra. They used her and they're like, wham bam, thank you ma'am.
And then for Gregory, continuing on Security Breach, what connection does Gregory have with anyone else in this game? I mean, he could be the 4th child, it's unlikely but possible in a way, but how on earth does he have a watch that connects to the security cameras of the place? Does he get it in the security room? And who would leave a piece of tech that would be so useful to anyone they're trying to stop out in the open? Like right for the taking. Was it Vanessa? Does she know she's compromised? I mean, she does in Special Delivery, but is Ness the Vanessa we're thinking of, or is it just a name meant to confuse us? Because Scott's done that before. I don't know anymore. I'm sad. Take the multiple uses of the name Jeremy. What is that, dude?
And at 3, good ending. The good ending in FNAF 3 is the one we all try and get, as well as the one we believe to be canon. However, there are details that someone pointed out to me, like how Golden Freddy's head isn't there, but is present in the bad ending. I did know this, but had forgotten about it, deeming it inconsequential. But now we at least know why, because despite the Happiest Day minigame, we still didn't release their soul. They didn't want to go. They wanted to stay behind to torture William for as long as they can. We brushed this off at the beginning, but we know that now. And it's interesting though, since FNAF 3 was supposed to be the end of the series. So why, if this is meant to be the end, is the Golden Freddy animatronic not released in the good ending? When these were added, Scott didn't know everyone would hate the Springtrap jump scare, but he made Golden Freddy stay anyway. Why? I guess we'll never find out.
And it too just an illusion. FNAF Sister Location is probably one of the most popular FNAF games to date, with plenty of fan favorites like Funtime Freddy, Foxy, and Baby being added, as well as the new fan art favorite Ballora. However, is what you see really what you get in this particular FNAF game? Well, it's a good question, and you may be thinking, Connor, of course it is. What are you talking about? You're dumb. And if you are saying that, I'd like to direct you to when we have to repair Funtime Freddy in Sister Location. As we open up his chest cavity, we can see a weird disc, something that's being described in the books as being able to create illusions using sound. And it seems to be flashing red. They call it a power module, but there is no way that that little disc is a power module. And if it's one of those discs, could it be changing the look of everything? Hell, this could have taken place in the basement of a goddamn shack, and we wouldn't know. It's pretty scary to think about. Finally, in at number 1, Mrs. Afton. We don't know the identity of Mrs. Afton. We don't even know if there is a Mrs. Afton, or if she was just a baby mama, or hell, if William's kids are just adopted. Most people draw a connection between Mrs. Afton and Clara from Immortal and the Restless, so much so that people believe Mrs. Afton's name is Clara. However, I propose the idea that could explain what happened to Mrs. Afton, and it makes a great amount of sense. The Fazbear Frights books were meant to help explain bits of the in-game lore, along with making Scott more money. Take the book Bunny Call with the story The Man in Room 1280, which I keep going back to. But this time, I'm talking about the story 1:35 AM from the book of the same name. This story revolves around Delia, who has recently gotten divorced from her husband, heartbroken because she never got the family that she wanted. She comes across a garage sale that has a doll that looked exactly like the daughter she had envisioned. She buys it and finds out that it's an alarm clock. Then, much like an actual baby, instead of waking her up when she wanted, she ends up getting woken up at 1:35 AM every morning. It gets so bad she runs away and hides in a factory ventilation shaft where she waits until she dies or suffocates. That's a really brief synopsis, but let's look at the parallels between Delia and Mrs. Afton, as well as Delia's story. Delia's parents died when she was young, so she was put into the foster care system where she was bounced around from family to family, but also was continuously abused. Eventually, she fell in love and was ready to start a family until her husband divorced her, which could be the case between William and his partner. We have no evidence as to what happened between them, so we can only speculate. Delia never managed to get the kids she wanted, and Mrs. Afton, assuming she was still alive, didn't get the kids in any form of divorce or court hearing, since we see the three of them living with William in FNAF 4 and Midnight Motorist. And then the surrogate daughter for Delia is a possessed doll. We learn she is possessed in another story where Phineas Taggart needs it to study agony, much like how William's daughter Elizabeth ends up possessing basically a giant robotic doll. The connection is somewhat loose, yes, but certainly more solid than Clara, since she was just talking to a purple-suited vampire about having his kid, and Vlad was denying it, despite it clearly being his, but still. Perhaps both of these stories combine together to create the story of Mrs. Afton. Not to mention the next story in that book is about the mini-Renas, who are meant to be Bellora's surrogate children. And who do people think that Bellora either represents or is possessed by? Mrs. Afton. Unit 10, the power of love. The immense agony generated when you hear me sing. The immense agony generated when you get killed is the fuel behind how possession works in the FNAF universe. This makes you think, if agony is the most powerful emotion in this world, what do the other emotions do? Or rather, where are the other emotions ranked? If agony lets you possess animatronics among other things upon death, what would emotions like anger and love do? And what is the second most powerful emotion? How far does it radiate? Do all emotions just allow you to possess things? Just other emotions are less likely to do so? Like, how does it work? I want to shout out the YouTube user that left the comments on this video that brought this to my attention, but I can't find that comment for a second time. So, I don't know if it was deleted, but if this was you who left the comment on the previous Tiny Details video, thank you so much. These things are getting really hard because I'm running out of details and I'm relying so much more on the comments section. So if you have any tiny details I have yet to talk about, please, I cannot stress this enough, leave it below. It doesn't even have to be, it doesn't even have to have like bigger implications. Okay, just something that's small, just please. Thank you for your help. Unit 9, hiding place. Throughout Sister Location, we're constantly being talked to by Baby. At first, she wants to help us, at least it seems that way, and then we get scooped. But before that, she mentions that someone crafted one of the cupboards into a hiding place, but who did that? Was it one of the technicians? Was it the man from the Fazbear Frights book? I mean, I don't think it would have been because he kind of got stuffed with mini-Renas. And I mean, the technicians are killed at the end of the game, but were they freshly filleted or were they there the whole time, only being revealed when a light was shining on them? Who knows, really? Maybe it was Baby who made that hole so we would trust her, or maybe it was William hiding from the wrath of his daughter. I mean, she had to be mad at him, right? Why else would she be haunting him in Ultimate Custom Night? Sure, he regrets what happened, but she surely blames him for the situation that she's kind of stuck in. She was clearly in agony since, you know, she possessed Baby, and William was 100% avoiding her. I mean, you don't just get shut in a room and not be avoiding your daughter, right? Parents know. And it is Shadow Animatronics. The Shadow Animatronics really don't have an explanation, even after all these years. We still just have a couple of ideas as to what these are. Some think that Crying Child is Shadow Freddy, others think that they're employees that ended up getting killed, either by the animatronics, William, or the spring-lock suits. Since the two Shadow Animatronics are Freddy and Bonnie, who we know have spring-lock variants in the games thanks to the phone guy dialogue. But where did these Shadow Animatronics come from and where did they go? Cotton Eye Joe. Did we release them? Are they still after us? Were they ever really hostile? The whole Shadow Animatronic situation was kind of forgotten over the years, and while it may not be an important detail, it's still something I'm curious about and I still want to answer.
And at 7, Smiling Purple Guy. The first time we see the purple guy was in FNAF 2, and in the Foxy Go 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 minigame we see him sitting in the corner smiling. This is the purple guy, by the way, not some pink guy. Scott confirmed that in the minigame section of the Freddy Files book. But in that minigame we see the purple guy smiling while Foxy runs out to greet 5 dead kids. Why? This originally led us to believe that the phone guy was Purple Guy, since Phone Guy also says he loves Foxy and distrusts the puppet. But as I said earlier, this was confirmed not to be the case by Scott himself, so why is the purple guy smiling? Is it because William's favorite animatronic was Foxy as well? Or was it because he was happy about the killings or seeing Foxy's reaction to it? Which wouldn't really make sense because these are animatronics, right? Or at this point maybe they were already possessed, which led to the child possessing Foxy to discover the 5 victims. And then maybe that gave William a sense of power, or he liked his reaction. I don't know.
And at 6, Bellora glasses. In the Fazbear Fright story of Room for One More, we see a girl steal a pair of glasses that show her a dancing Bellora when she puts them on. It starts off sweet, but as we know, these animatronics don't mess around. Eventually, Bellora starts getting closer, basically just coming in for a kill, and in an effort to atone, the girl returns the glasses to their owner, only to have her daughter get caught by Bellora. The actual story though isn't important, so if I messed it up, please forgive me. What I'm really looking at here are the glasses. These glasses help this girl see Bellora when nobody else can. And this reminds me of something that we've experienced in the games, the Nightmare animatronics. Could it be that instead of the illusion sound discs that we've been thinking caused the Nightmare animatronics, that it was actually these glasses? And yes, I said nightmare sound discs intentionally because I saw a comment that said please say just illusion discs. So no, illusion sound discs. You can't tell me what to do. Scott himself said that these stories would help us solve things from the games. So what if Crying Child was wearing these glasses and that's how he saw the nightmares? It would explain why he wouldn't call for help because he knew that nobody else could see them. And I doubt that they would have put on the glasses if he had asked. Plus, it would also explain why Michael knows what the nightmare animatronics look like as an alternate explanation to my he's a robot crying child theory, which I'm sure plenty of you want at this point.
Halfway through into number 5, Multiverse. This also basically canonically inserts a FNAF multiverse into the franchise, which was already the case thanks to the several book series, but also opens the door to various other timelines. Like, what if what we've been seeing isn't one timeline, but multiple? And this means that, technically, every single FNAF theory has been correct in one universe. In one universe, Foam Guy is Purple Guy. In another, Scott Cawthon is the name of the indie game developer. In one universe, I am guaranteed to be right with my theories, but that also means that every single person, no matter how outlandish the theory is, will be right at some point in one of the FNAF universes. And that's pretty cool, but also freaky. What if it's revealed that from FNAF 2 to now, all the games took place in the fanverse, since Freddy from FNAF 2, not Toy Freddy, but like normal Freddy, I guess normal, and the FNAF Plus Freddy look fairly similar. Uh-oh, I can feel the hate comments coming.
And in 4, Glitch. Continuing on Golden Freddy, how does he have these powers? How can he move in and out of the office at will, basically moving through walls and causing weird hallucinations that give us issues for 7 years? Yet we still don't know how it's possible. This should, in reality, be incredibly hard to do, if not impossible, because even in the FNAF world, this kind of thing is hard. Is this what the other emotions can do, or is this agony stretching so far that they can move through solid objects and hide from our vision? Why have we not tried to figure this out? We kind of just accepted that he can do this, and then we moved on. Like, what the actual hell is this little freaking goddamn golden bear? Is he a bear? Yeah, he's a bear. Like, he can just come in and out whenever he wants, crash us to the desktop, and then laugh as we have to reboot it like he just loaded Skyrim for the 40,000th time without mods. Like, where did this man come from?
Getting close to the end into number 3, 8-bit canon. The 8-bit minigames are very confusing. Shout out to Tessa, one of our editors, for this idea. She edits most of the FNAF videos and apparently they make her want to play the game, so all I have to say is good luck. But she mentioned how weird these minigames are, and up until this point I did really forget about that. Having to glitch through a wall in order to give the spirit of a kid cake so that you can ultimately release all their souls in the real world to get the good ending. Like, what? That means that those 8-bit minigames have to be canon, but also real. Like, how do these games actually present themselves in real life? There's no way that we as Shadow Bonnie are just flying around breaking into pieces, or are they in their own universe and are able to cross over at will? And if we can do the same by playing these, does that mean we're dead as well? Oh wait, sorry, that works too much with my Michael as both Crying Child and Foxy Bro theory, so people are gonna get mad. I'll stop. Hashtag not salty. Not salty at all.
In a 2, Scene in the Shadows. During MatPat's Big FNAF livestream during the FNAF 4 days, he ended up getting clues from Scott Cawthon himself via the Scott Games or FNAF World website, I can't remember which one. One referencing Chica's beak, one talking about 4 games, 1 story, and then one saying what is seen in shadows is often misunderstood in the mind of a child. And since Scott has since debunked Dream Theory, what did this mean? Did he originally intend on Dream Theory being the correct answer, then changed his mind, because, you know, that's pretty Scott? Or is there still some validity to this clue that we haven't explored yet? I mean, we originally assumed it was the scene where Purple Guy puts a head on a coworker in a suit, but is this referencing something else now? Did Crying Child see Elizabeth get scooped in the shadows, making it really look like there was a stomach mouth and some weird alien tongue that grabbed her? Hence the stomach mouths on the nightmare animatronics? Or did he just see it directly and that's why they're there, and this is referencing something completely different? I mean, it would make sense, but Sister Location hadn't come out yet, right? I don't know anymore. My brain hurts. Finally, in number 1, Henry's death. There are currently 2 deaths that we know of for the character we know as Henry. One's in the FNAF 6 fire, where he stays while it burns so nobody will remember this place, but also once in FNAF World, where he gets killed by Baby. However, if he died in the FNAF 6 fire along with Baby, how did he die in the FNAF World cutscene? There seems to be a simple explanation. Actually, they are the same thing. That room that Henry was in that cutscene must have been a room in the FNAF 6 building that we just didn't know about. Maybe the safe room that we heard so much about until FNAF 3 when we just forgot about it. That scene was basically a flash forward to the FNAF 6 location even if we didn't know it at the time, where Baby kills Henry before they're both engulfed in flames. She either killed him due to rage or the fact that Henry called her Elizabeth. Or cut her off in the ending because, yeah, that would make me go nuts too.
And be full.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name, but I'm afraid you've been misinformed.
In the 10, MatPat is canon, kinda. Thanks to the Fazbear Frights book Bunny Call, and more so the story In the Flesh, MatPat is basically canon in the FNAF universe. Sure, it's kinda nuts that Scott wrote an MPreg fanfic about MatPat, but the crazier thing is that makes MatPat canon in the FNAF world. Technically, since the character's name isn't Matthew Patrick, and he's working on a new FNAF game and not a new FNAF theory, but he's MatPat's in-universe stand-in. While game theory or Dawko may not be canon, the essence of MatPat is. And he ended up getting killed by a plush trap baby that crawled its way out of his stomach. I haven't finished the story, mostly because I keep cringing so hard, but I don't understand how working on a video game turns into an animatronic crawling out of your stomach, killing you instantly. But hey, it's FNAF, and this is yet another instance of someone escaping from a game and entering the real world. However, this time it's Springtrap, which is a version of William Afton, so joy. I guess he will be busting out of the game. And a 9 confirmation. The actual confirmed information we have about the FNAF series is limited. Basically, Scott has only said a few things are true and a few things are false. The rest of these theories about the timeline and the logbook are all based on other theories. Scott hasn't confirmed the name of Crying Child or the name of the Afton family mother. He hasn't even confirmed if William had a wife or if his kids are adopted. He hasn't confirmed if the logbook is possessed or if Michael is the brother. Those are still just theories, not fact. And people treating these theories as fact and hating on things that aren't exactly what MatPat has said is extremely misguided. I think you know where I'm going with this. Scott has confirmed that Springtrap is William. He's confirmed that Dream Theory, Foxy being kind, and the phone guy being William Afton or Purple Guy aren't true in the April Fool's mechanics for Fredbear, Foxy, and Phone Guy for Ultimate Custom Night. And he's confirmed that Sister Location takes place in 1983, but not Who Did the Bite of 87. He's also confirmed that Glitch Trap is William Afton using the Easter egg from Curse of Dreadbear, where Glitch Trap dances next to the FNAF 4 house in the distance, an Easter egg I showed off in our recent FNAF VR livestream. So stop coming to the comments of my theories saying that Michael can't possibly be the Crying Child because he's Foxy, bro. I said he was both, not one or the other. It's incredibly disrespectful to the research and effort I put into that video. It's just as valid a theory as anything MatPat suggests. Okay, rant over. Thank you for coming to my Fred Talk. And an 8 Phone Guy death. Phone Guy's death from the first FNAF game is ultra sus. Firstly, we hear banging on a closed door, something that only happens because of Foxy. But then we hear Freddy's theme, March of the Toreador. Then some groaning that's only given off by Bonnie and Chica, and then Golden Freddy's jump scare. Why all of this attention? Only on night 5 does it get this intense for the player, and the Phone Guy only has 4 nights, so why did this character come to such a horrific end? And who actually did the killing? We know that the Phone Guy thought he'd get stuffed into a suit, hence why he asked us to check them, or maybe he was planning on hiding in a suit to try to survive, since the main theory in this game is that they put you in a suit because you look like a naked endoskeleton and that's against company policy. But why would Golden Freddy have been the one to kill him? The other animatronics have priority while killing, at least mechanics wise, so why on earth is that happening in that room? Like, what's going on? I don't know.
It's an Afton virus. We know that William is a virus at the moment. After dying in the man in room 1280, he possesses a hard drive that gets scanned into FNAF VR Help Wanted. We also know the virus gets uploaded to Special Delivery thanks to the Special Delivery emails and the aggressive nature of what was supposed to be nice animatronics. However, why did the virus get uploaded? Who uploaded it? Well, thanks to the emails we aren't supposed to see, we learned that Vanny, the antagonist of the upcoming Security Breach game, is the one who's uploaded the virus, and I mean it makes sense. She's a follower of Afton, even if it's reluctant. However, with the various versions of Springtrap in the game, could this virus be to blame for them? Especially Toxic Springtrap, who is the signature purple of the infamous Purple Guy who occupies the suit. Was Toxic Springtrap the original attempt to escape the video game world? I mean, the AR game is the closest we've gotten to having FNAF animatronics in real life, and Scott isn't one to be afraid of being meta. I mean, he was the final boss of FNAF World after all. So could William's real plan to be to escape into our world? And would that tie in with the new Joy of Creation Ignited collection that Scott is helping to fund? Since in that game you play as Scott Cawthon and the animatronics are coming after you in the real world. I don't know, it seems possible.
And at 6, FNAF Plus. The Fazbear Fanverse Initiative is a program created by Scott Cawthon that gives popular fan game creators the chance to have their games reach a wider audience and be backed by Scott Cawthon himself, helping them with merch, distribution, and console ports in some cases. However, one of the games in this program is FNAF Plus, a reimagining/fan remake of the first game, with new assets, new models, and coding. The trailers make it seem way more intense and scary than the original, and it has a lot of implications for this universe. First off, it's not the same Freddy's we know, but since games like Five Nights at Candy's have connections to the FNAF restaurant, they appear to need to have one to fill that story. So this is kinda pushing them away from the main FNAF canon. But it also has implications with one of the other games, Joy of Creation's Ignited collection. Since in Joy of Creation you play as Scott Cawthon, or the creator of the FNAF series, who's on the run from the animatronics. Which makes me think that maybe this is the universe that Help Wanted was referring to when they said a rogue indie game dev created games to make fun of the situation. Maybe the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative games are those games, and this is the aftermath of the series ending?
Halfway through and in number 5, Disassembled. In FNAF 1 we only had 5 animatronics to worry about, and no convoluted story. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy was our cast of characters, compared to the over 50 that appear in Ultimate Custom Night. However, even out of all 50 plus, Golden Freddy is still the most interesting and mysterious. In the first game, he had no endoskeleton. He seemed to just be a floppy suit with 2 glowing eyes that somehow was able to teleport through walls, and some believed to be able to cause hallucinations like the infamous "It's me" text and "Eyeless Bonnie," along with changing posters on the wall and generating news articles that show us more lore. But how? And why? Why is he so limp? The amount of jokes I could make for that. Is his endoskeleton the one in the storage room, and why was it removed in the first place? Was it for cleaning or something? Because let's be honest, if the animatronics are leaking mucus and blood and smell like death and don't get washed, I doubt that they'll be cleaning Golden Freddy. Some think that it's because he caused the bite of 87, but there is evidence for other characters as well, and nothing has been confirmed. So, why?
And at 4, Hanging Scientists. The sister location hanging scientists weren't there before they were revealed to us. It's meant to show us that Ennard is able to and willing to kill anything getting in his way. But that means that there were other people working there while we were there during sister location. I don't know why though, since it was literally filled with deadly animatronics. And the only reason we were sent there was to put her back together, like William had somehow asked us to do. But like, why were there others there? Was the business still running? Is that what Chica's Party World was? We know they were renting out animatronics, but why were there so many remaining? I thought they had stopped, especially when they were only used for 1 day. Like, I mean, we know why Baby wasn't rented, but the others? I don't know. It's weird, but I guess I'm not here to judge how someone runs their business.
And at 3, hallucinations. The hallucinations from FNAF 1 are their own story too. Where did they come from? Is it Golden Freddy? If it is, why do we need to see them, or why do we see them in the first place? Are they actual newspaper articles, or are we just fully hallucinating? Is this real life, or is this just a fantasy? Caught in a landslide, escape Golden Freddy. But seriously, why are we seeing these things other than it being important to the mystery of the game? Is there something more going on here that we haven't discovered yet? Is Golden Freddy the one changing these articles and posters, or are we somehow doing it ourselves? These hallucinations, or whatever they are, have some sort of explanation behind them. I just need to know what that explanation is.
And ultimately, in at number 2, Forgetting Baby. One of Baby's most famous lines is, "I guess you forgot about me," which she says to William during Ultimate Custom Night. At least from my understanding, it's a famous line, or an important one to say the least, since this implies a whole bunch of things right off the bat. Instantly we get confirmation that Elizabeth is William Afton's daughter, since she wouldn't be saying this to a complete stranger. I mean, I guess it was also confirmed that she was his daughter in sister location. When Michael said I did it, I put her back together. But like, more confirmation is always good. And as well, this proves that William just ditched his daughter. Sure, he didn't forget about her since he sent Michael to go and put her back together, but he also didn't go see her. He gets burnt in FNAF 6, but until that point he hadn't even been in the same room as his daughter. So she must be pretty pissed, hence why she's one of his enemies while in a coma. This could also mean that he regrets not being able to see her and that he actually does care about her, since these would all be manifestations of William's subconscious. meaning that any theory about William hating his daughter because maybe she killed the mother during childbirth or something similar are confirmed wrong, since he clearly loved her and regrets what happened and how he couldn't see her. Finally, in at number 1, Fazbear Fright's connection. The Fazbear Frights books have been the foundation for a load of FNAF theories as of late, mostly because we aren't getting to see any really new security breach trailers, probably up until the game actually drops at this point, but this ended up causing a lot of division in the community, since most people don't think the books have anything to do with the games, especially in the case of the original novels. However, I'd like to direct your attention to a post made by Scott Cawthon announcing the Fazbear Frights books, where he said that the books will help solve mysteries or issues we've had in the series, so it's 100% allowed to create a theory for the story of the games based on evidence from a Fazbear Frights book. Not only that, but while the games may not be directly connected to the original novels, they are from the same brain as the games, therefore will share similarities, so it's really just ignorant to disregard those as well. I'm gonna get hate for this video anyway, so I might as well say it. Thank you for coming to my Fred Talk number 2.